Satire Project.
Hello and welcome back. And we are super excited about the next session. Thank you guys for sticking around. This has been an amazing day. We have had super amazing engagements and conversations so far. And the next person who we have is someone who is very, very special. We are huge fans of her work. And I don't want to delay it further, but please welcome Rachita Taneja, also known as Sanitary Panels. Rachita, welcome to Cap Talks 2020. We're so excited to have you here with us.
Thank you. Excited to be
So
here.
Rachita, where are you joining us from?
I am in hot and sweltering Delhi right now.
Oh, interesting. And how is
Yeah.
the quarantine and the lockdown treating you? How are things there?
I recently did a comic about how someone starts responding to that question and then breaks down crying. So
Yeah.
that's how I feel right now. So I start responding.
right.
It'll just
I've
be
seen
like a
that.
sob fest.
It's a classic Rachita answer. Classic way of answering.
Amazing. I think, do we have people
yeah,
joining in? Awesome. So Rachita, welcome to Gap Talks 2020. We are so excited to have you here, and we have been amazing. We have been following your amazing work for a really long time, and just yesterday we were having conversations around. It was Independence Day, and we were having conversations about artists and expression and voicing, making our voice heard in Dissent. And I think you made an amazing comic yesterday. So it's about who's been at this for quite a while. It's been probably around 3 years, 4 years. So tell us about how did this come to be? Have you always been illustrating? Was this something which just the situation just made you feel there's all this pent up anger that had to come out, and you just started sketching it out and putting it out there? And so, what is the story behind Sanitary Panels?
Yeah, so I started in 2014, just shortly after the general election. And I basically saw that students were being arrested for posting their political opinion on Facebook. And that really angered me because it's censorship, it's censorship of free speech. We have Article 19 in the Constitution that upholds our free speech and our ability to, express. So I was quite cheesed off about the fact that students were being arrested for just practicing their fundamental rights. And I made my first comic, which was about a person being thrown into jail as soon as they raised their voice against the present government. And so that's when it started. And I did not think it would actually become something, it would become what it is today. I started it as a way to entertain my friends. I try to be the class clown. So I was just being the class clown with my friends and family even. So it ended up becoming big. And it's because I kept at it. I kept at it for 6 years, even when there were times when I did not feel like I was getting anything out of it apart from, it was just a good way for me to vent my anger and to get things out there. It's always been political, it's always been feminist, and it's like I said, it's a good way for me to vent, but it's also now proving to be a good way for me to mobilize on issues. So for example, the Environment Impact Assessment report came out, the 2020 draft came out, and it was open for public consultation. So I decided, I have this audience. I decided this when, a couple of years ago, I have this audience. I might as well use this audience to mobilize on issues that other organizations are working on. So whether it's working against the Trans Bill 2018, 2019, whether it was that, whether it's working on environmental impact assessment, whether it's working on LGBTQ issues. So I've tried to make my audience, give my audience chances to participate in democracy as much as possible.
Awesome. And yesterday we were talking to Rohan about it, about when Rohan started making green humor about his illustrations. And initially it was just for his love of animals, and later it just expanded to this movement almost. And now green humor is almost synonymous with the environmental, whatever environment activism is happening in this country, and especially since the EIA draft became up for public consultation, I think it's mostly been the artists and the content creators online who've been very vocal, because right now we are stuck inside and we are not able to go out and protest. So I think it's a very potent time for artists to organize themselves, they use the influence that they have. So Rachita, would you like to share some of your work with us before we engage in much more deeper conversations?
Yeah, let me just open up my presentation. I don't know how to make this full screen. Let me just...
Are you on Adobe Acrobat Reader?
No, I figured it out, I think. Let me now share.
Awesome.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Fantastic. Great. So, like I said, I started in 2014. Very political comic always. Very, very tolerant towards this country and its people. So this is one of the comics I like to show as a very simple, straightforward, and one of my earliest viral comics, which is about when Amir Khan said that India is an intolerant country, and this was made to mock that concept, because you had to say India was tolerant, otherwise you would get beaten up for it. This was on demonetization. I'll give you a second to read it. So I named this one "How to Train Your Anti-National," like how to train your dragon. This one was actually about the fact that I'm usually always invited to panels, which is all male panels. And I think this was also when there was a roundtable conversation with stand-up comedians, including Aditi Mittal, and all of the men were talking about sexism in the industry. But Aditi Mittal is like, yeah, okay, first you talk about it, then let me talk about it, because I'm the one actually dealing with it. So this was based on that. This was based on Aadhaar, clearly. These ones are these are more recent. So up till I think this point, up till the Aadhaar comic, in this presentation, I was working with paper. Like, I don't know if y'all can tell, but I don't know how to draw, or at least I didn't know how to draw. That's why I made everything as basic, black and white, stick figure as possible. And I had not invested in any technology or materials, or hardware or software to make my comics. So I used to draw them literally on a piece of paper. I had different thickness pens, and then I would take a picture of it, and I would color correct it a little bit and upload it. The quality turned out to be really bad at the beginning. You can tell that the quality of my comic is really bad. It's barely readable in some parts. Then I invested in a scanner, 3,000 rupees. I invested in a scanner so that I could scan my comics and it would be more readable at the very least. And then then I started going digital. My brother gifted me a drawing pad, a Wacom. So I started drawing comics on a tablet. And I honestly do not make most of my tablet. I feel really bad about it because I use it for such basic stuff. But it's so much easier to do it on digital, because every time I drew and I made a mistake, I would have to restart the whole thing. It was a nightmare, basically, but now it's a lot easier. And I don't know how I managed to do it on paper for so long. I had a lot of patience back in the day. So yeah, this is about the sedition law, and I recently changed it to the UAPA law. I think the UAPA can be put on this, sedition can be put on this, APSPA can be put on this. Like, there are so many laws in our country that stop people from protesting and dissenting. And this was, the one on the right is for Arnab Goswami, from my heart to him. His TV is garbage. So I thought
he's someone we're really not proud of.
Yeah. Yeah, let us tell you that.
Let us, in our defense.
Yeah.
I do not blame you. I don't think anyone can make such a mistake.
I love that comment. Somebody said Arna bin.
Yeah.
Ritupana.
Then this one was about the Me Too campaign, which was essentially that men, after being called out at Me Too, would just like disappear for a while, go off the grid, and then come back, and sometimes even get promoted or get more, get a higher salary, or get just rehired, while all of the women's testimonies ended up being nothing. Like it didn't matter what the women said. So this was about a fictional place called the Lay Low Spa, where men can go and lay low if they're called out during Me Too, and then they can just come back after the conversation around them specifically has died. So yeah, like I was talking about activism around like using my comics to mobilize people. So there were a couple of organizations, trans organizations, working against the trans bill, which is very regressive. I would urge all of you to read up on it if you haven't already. And there were trans organizations working on it, and I thought, okay, I have an audience, let me use my comic and share it with them. I made it, I shared it with them, I asked them if this was okay. They said yes. When I say they, I mean a couple of people from the community. Obviously, I cannot speak. There's not one person that speaks on behalf of the whole community, but I spoke to a couple of folks, and they liked the comic, and I published it, and I redirected people to go and send an email to the Rajya Sabha MPs who would be voting on this. So essentially, it was a direct way. So the comic was a direct way to first you get people's eyes on it, and then you direct them to take meaningful action. So I'm trying to do that as much as I can. Whenever I see an opportunity, I try doing that. And I think a lot of other folks like Rohan, for example, do this like really, really well. This was about our previous Chief Justice when he was accused.
Ranjan Gogoi?
Yeah.
We're not proud of him either.
This was not intentional. So when he was called out during the Me Too movement, everyone, used to talk about due process. And here is this Chief Justice. So I was like, dude, process, where is the process? And it was really fun because I did not know that activists were using it, but there were anonymous activists who were going and projecting this image around Bombay. And it was very cool to have no idea that someone had taken my comic, no idea that they had edited it, which is like, you should totally go for it if you want to do that and mobilize people for it. They went and projected it, and I just got tagged on a Twitter, on a tweet, and I found that my comic was being projected in Bombay, and there were articles being written about it. So I was really pleased.
Wow.
The due process tag was by Aruna Chandrasekhar, who's also a really cool activist on environmental rights. So just a quick trigger warning for folks who might have a problem with the content in the next slides. I mentioned rape and violence. So if you want to mute for a second or stop video, please go ahead. Okay, so this was actually a really, really funny and sad incident that happened. I wrote this comic. Basically, I got blocked. My personal account on Facebook got blocked for 3 days because I commented on a friend's post about men being trash. On a friend's post. So I got blocked. I couldn't post. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't respond. I couldn't engage on Facebook. So I made this comic because I'll give you all a second to read it.
Oh my God.
This is so relatable. And this happens so often.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah, so I was really pissed off about the fact that my friends would very often talk about the fact that they were being harassed and they were being sent threats and just very gendered insults on Facebook. And when you reported it to Facebook, they'd be like, sorry, we did not find anything that goes against our community standards. But then when someone writes men are trash, even if it's as a joke, often it's not a joke, but even if it's as a joke, their content gets taken down and they get blocked for a certain number of days. So I made this comic and I put it on Facebook and it went batshit viral. It got like, and it didn't go viral only within India. It started getting shared on meme pages that had like millions of people following.
Wow.
It started getting shared a lot, and I didn't realize that it was getting shared on Facebook. I was traveling at the time and I didn't know it had become this big. And then I found out that Facebook took down my comic because it went community standards. So
Oh my God.
me criticizing
I knew that was coming up.
Double standards.
Facebook's community standards went against community standards. So it was really funny. And even by this time they had Instagram as well. So even Instagram took it down and they didn't tell me what community standard I violated. Usually if your blocked or if your comics or whatever content is taken down, they tell you that, this was unsuitable because it had these words or whatever. They just gave me no explanation for this. So it was probably manually done. Without any reasons. So I went to Twitter and because that was the only thing not owned by Facebook. And I spoke about it. And then there were hundreds of people that were tagging Instagram, that were tagging Twitter, Facebook, and were reposting the comic. And eventually it just came back up like nothing happened. They pretended like nothing happened and the comic was restored. The fun thing about all of this was that Deccan Herald or Deccan Chronicle, I don't remember which newspaper this is, but they posted "Men Are Trash" on the front page of their newspaper, and I love it.
Oh, wow.
Because in my comic it says "Men Are Trash," so
Amazing.
we didn't censor my comic. It was a lot of fun. Anyway, so then coming to like a lot more of my political stuff.
All right, here we go.
This is where it gets fun and also very harassy, I guess, for me. But so this is the Supreme Court with the saffron flag. This I made when the Ram Mandir verdict was passed last year. Then this is the Election Commission of India sleeping on all of the allegations of corruption against the Modi government during the 2019 election. Then I made a poster called "The A to Z of Modi," where it was a poem that ran for as many parts for the A to Z of Modi. This was again before the election. The middle one is Amit Shah talking about human rights not being an Indian concept. Human rights is a Western concept.
Yep.
And the last one was about Amit Shah being the head
So
of the
ridiculous.
ministers to tackle lynching, which is just quite something. I think they're doing it on purpose. They're like, who is the most violent person in this country? Let's make him in charge of lynching.
Can we just read the last one for a moment?
Yes.
Once.
Tom and Jerry finally know the differences.
So on point.
Then this comes to the more recent past, which is the communication lockdown in Kashmir, which I did a lot of work on as Sanitary Panels, and also I collaborated with a Pakistani artist. I'll come to that in the next few slides. But this also went quite viral. I had made it for Forbes back when I was doing a column with Forbes. And it was just about the fact that everyone had an opinion on Kashmir, but we did not hear any voices from people living in Kashmir. It just felt like such a silly debate, not silly, but like such an unjust conversation to be having every time we spoke about Kashmir. Especially when anchors were talking about Kashmir, news channels were saying, oh, this is such a great move, or even celebrities were saying, this is such a great move. I'm like, have you even thought about what Kashmiris think right now? Maybe listen to them. But no, you have very strategically muted them so that their dissent can't come through to the mainstream. So yeah, this was, I partnered with one of my close friends and a fantastic artist, Shazil Malik. She is a Pakistani artist. And when this Kashmir issue was, when the lockdown happened, we decided that it would be a good collaboration to have a Pakistani artist and an Indian artist saying, we want Kashmir to have the right to self-determination. And we're like, but we don't want to put our own opinions and our own biases on people when we're talking about Kashmir. So what we decided was to take photos from Kashmir and poems from Kashmir and make posters out of them, so that we are not assigning any meaning to them. We are just showing you what is happening. Obviously, with art, there is an opinion that comes in. But we tried to be as neutral and just say that we are asking for the self-determination of Kashmiris. So these were like heartbreaking to work on, obviously. but obviously nothing compares to how the people feel who must have written this or taken these photos.
Absolutely.
It was a 6-part or 8-part series, and you can go check it out on my page or Shazil's page. This photo was really haunting, about the soldier standing in front of the kids. Great. So coming on December, which is when I started really, I made, the most number of comics in a short period of time that I have ever. So this was during the anti-CA and RC protests. I wanted to support people who were on the, sorry, let me know if I'm taking too much time.
No,
Absolutely.
yes,
Very insightful.
Yes.
So I realized that, so I couldn't personally go out as much as I would have liked to, because I have family stuff to do. So I tried, I went to as many protests as I could. But I realized that there were 2 or 3 things that were required by the people organizing it and for the people attending it. One is to have information on where protests are happening and when they're happening. Second, to have content to take to these protests. So have posters, have slogans, have things like that. The third was to have, I think those were the 2 things that I thought about. And so what I did was I made posters that people could put content on and put details on. So I made, for example, these 2, I left space so that people could put their own content saying, we are protesting at, for example, India Gate, please come at this time. So I left them blank. I didn't put anything on them, and these were based on pictures. And the one on the left was from the Aligarh Muslim University protests. So yeah, I made these so that people would have a way to mobilize their own audiences without having to worry about artwork. Similarly, I did the one on the right, where people could use to organize more protests. The one on the left is a play on the Delhi police logo. And this was actually, when I went to Jamia, I saw that they had printed out a whole stack of this so that people could hold it up. So I also wanted people to feel free to print out whatever they want, take, draw it if they want to draw, like for the simpler ones at least, they could draw it and then just take it to protests.
This bring back a lot of memories. I was also part of the protest going on in Delhi.
I swear, man.
I remember making all sorts of posters and just carrying them, folding them up, hiding them, because they were tearing down, we were not allowed to get in with placards and posters. So they were just simply tearing them up or just not letting you carry any of them. So we used to hide them inside our belts and t-shirts and all.
Was this
tough times?
Delhi University or Jamia?
No, Assam, I think.
Oh,
No?
in Assam.
No. I was in Delhi that time.
Oh, you in Delhi? Okay.
Yeah, I was in Delhi that time.
I remember the Assam scene.
Yeah, I was in Delhi during that time, and Assam had its own scene going on. So in Delhi also, we were all mobilizing in our own way. It was crazy.
I think it's snowballed from Assam.
Yeah. So we were there in front of the police headquarters, then Rashtrapati Bhavan and CP areas.
Protests got quite
it was
violent.
mayhem.
Yeah.
It was mayhem. Oh, I love this one where even the fire flames are in the shape of the lotus.
Yeah, so I made this one again for people to be able to carry to protests, and I was actually tagged a lot of times where people were drawing this by hand at Shaheen Bagh. It was really nice to also visit Shaheen Bagh and see that someone had drawn this poster and put it up. So I felt useful. I felt like I was helping out in some way.
That's
and then
so nice.
on the right, it's Jhoot Bole Kawa Kaate, which translates to the person who lies will get bit by a crow, I guess. But Kawa and Kawa, I went with it.
Yes, I can relate to it the most. I'm the punster here.
Acha.
And I made these because I was kind of when I went to Shaheen Bagh, every time I went to Shaheen Bagh, I just felt so much of solidarity and hope that I wanted to make these. it's just, yeah, both of them say Hamari Ekta Zindabad. Because I really felt that people were, you know, as much as there were people who were trying to divide the country based on religion, there were also people, so many more people standing up to unite the country, despite of our religion differences, etc. And this is the comic that has actually been my most viral comic to date.
Yes.
I guess
I love this.
Yes, I love this one. Yes.
I think it's because it doesn't have any language on it. It's just symbols, and I think it translates.
It's not. Yeah. It's just pictures.
Yeah, so it translates, and yeah, I made this for Forbes, and it ended up making a lot of rounds, and it was by far the most used poster of mine at.
And the best part is it can be used in any context.
Exactly. It's about solidarity. It's about standing up to authority, standing up against violence. There are so many different ways that you can, like you said, the way that you can take it.
Right.
I guess. So yeah, this was these were the tagged photos that I had. A couple of tagged photos I had of people using my comics. It was very heartening to see someone even painted it on their T-shirt and tagged me. Yeah.
It's just so sweet. Like,
yeah,
it's just so inspiring to see that people connect with you so well and relate to your post so well.
I was blown away because again it went out of my regular, like if I saw my friends holding up the posters, that would be one thing because they see my content. But this was just like way out of my circles, just
exactly.
The beauty of communication, like
the beauty of especially through art. I mean, that's that's for me is like very special for us.
Yeah, I was thrilled, and I also guess it's because it's easy to replicate my art in that way. It's not difficult to
I also see Abhishek Abhishek's poster in the Jamia movement. Is there Abhishek's poster somewhere there? Abhishek?
Really? Where?
Yeah,
where?
Tanas is mentioned. There's an Abhishek's poster too.
Really? I don't know.
Okay. Anyway, even Abhishek's poster got circulated pretty far and wide.
But which one is it? I want to find it.
I don't know. Even I.
Tanas found it. Even I can't see it though, but I remember the post, of course.
Okay.
Anyway, so yeah.
It's there somewhere.
So yeah, please let me know which one it is. I'd love to see it. Yeah, so the comic went pretty well, and there were some students from Jamia who got in touch with me to draw on the wall. And so I drew this comic. I found like a small sliver in the wall, which was not being painted by students. I also didn't want to take up space that students were using to protest. So I found a small sliver and I painted the comic. That was my first and only mural.
From the artist herself.
I also saw a video a couple of weeks later when the lockdown was announced and the Jamia area was cleared up. I saw the videos of right-wing goons painting over this entire wall.
Yes.
So there is actually a video of them painting over mine specifically,
and
it was painful to see. But I was like, I haven't put too much effort into this mural, right? The person on the left of my comic, they had made such a gorgeous mural of Ambedkar,
but regardless of that, I think
I know. I just know how much time and effort. Like I could see that,
I know
effort into it. So it was sad to see. And this is on.
Absolutely. I can see this for so many of my classmates today. Like when I saw this comic, it reminded me of so many of my old school friends, people I went to school with, college with, and like these same conversations had come up. Like when back in 2014, we were like, guys, this is really bad. Like we should not let this happen. They were like, but you know what, Congress is as bad. We don't have a choice. We should give him a chance. Then when a chance came, it's like, but 60 years, like what did they do? Like, give him 10 years. ultimately, as you peel the layers and tell it, so what do you want? Do you want to become Pakistan or Saudi Arabia? Ultimately, it comes to that.
Oh my God.
Ultimately,
And of course, that question, if not Modi, then who?
yeah. I hate that question because it's like if not a murderer, then maybe someone who's as corrupt and not a murderer in the same way.
So well said.
The illusion of control and choice.
Yep, illusion of control. And I think now more than ever, they've basically admitted that what they want is a Hindu Rashtra. Like after the Ram Mandir word, everyone has been very open about it as well, saying, Akhand Bharat, Hindu Rashtra, all of that crap.
It's becoming, I have seen videos
It's
where
official
Muslim people
now.
are being harassed like, they're taking videos. People are taking videos of harassing Muslim people and saying, Jai Shri
That's
Ram
been
bol
going
ke
on
diga.
forever now.
No, I mean, now it is
Forever
gone even, I know. But abhi to, I know, anyway.
Like this government has enabled them. This is like, they're like the most biggest enabler of violence that we have seen throughout ages, I guess. I mean, this is really.
In fact, I was shocked to see some of the people
Sorry,
I
Rachita?
know.
What was
Rachita,
Rachita
breaking.
saying?
Oh no, I was basically saying that violence is the only way that they can continue pushing their agenda of the Hindu Rashtra and Akhand Bharat. So the violence is not, it's not endorsed by them. It's actually encouraged by them. They want violence to happen.
Correct.
Exactly.
Correct.
And that is also the power of this decentralized violence also, right? Like where they can easily, like I was watching a documentary on the Nuremberg trials, and over there, Hermann Goering was openly saying that I didn't know this was happening at the concentration camps. I didn't order that. I didn't order any of that things. And that just shows you how easy it is for someone at the top to quickly say, like, we didn't order that. Those people were working on their own. And even the enablers or the protectors, they will say, what do you think? The prime minister really has control over every other fringe element working. And that's the thing. Like, that's the power that they have. They can always take a step back and say, like, we didn't have anything to do with it.
Yeah, they
We are
wash their
democratically
hands of
elected power.
accountability. Like they don't want accountability. They're washing their hands off of accountability. It's like as simple as that.
It's like 2000. It's like 2002, right? They couldn't. They said that we had nothing to do with it, but we don't know. I mean, we know that they had everything to do with it, but it's just it can't be traced back in the same way that when decentralized violence happen, it can't be traced back. And this comic I made this was during Delhi riots to show how the Delhi police was complicit in the violence against Muslims during the riots.
Right.
Because they were actually, the policemen were, it's just so infuriating how many videos there are of
They're arranging stones.
Collecting stones, using
stones.
Violence against Muslim people. The video of the Muslim people on the floor singing the national anthem while the police are forcing them to do it.
Yes.
That should haunt us.
That was heartbreaking. It was like such a misplaced sense of patriotism.
Yeah, it's not even. It's just it's bhakti. It's not patriotism.
It's bhakti. Yeah, exactly.
And even that video of this one guy. No, it's okay. That one guy who was brandishing a gun in front of the police, and police just waited for him to shoot, and they were like, "Okay, come with us." Now.
Oh my God, that Ram Bhakt guy.
Right. Sorry, please go ahead, Rachita.
No, I didn't say anything. Look at it.
Okay. No. That's it. Like it's that incident itself.
Oh, sorry. No, it was all very clear about who was on which side. The police were just standing there and letting Hindu people do their thing, but as soon as they found any excuse to retaliate towards Muslim people. Anyway, so this is again about Arnab Goswami sir.
Yes.
Give you a second to read it. So I made a 3-part series. One had Sudhir Chaudhary, one had this one, and one had Rahul Shiv Shankar, about how they were just, even if it is so obvious that Hindu people were attacking Muslims, they still found a way to somehow make it about Muslims being the ones that were attacking. And this is more recent. Oh, I don't know what happened to the image. It's got a little white stuff on it. This is about the Ram Mandir inauguration. And I'm using the video that showed the mother dying in front of her child because of starvation. So about how Modi wants to like shift anytime this kind of thing happens, they have a very smart media strategy to, change the conversation. And we end up falling for it so much. As the left, we end up falling for these distractions so much. We should not, I mean, it's obviously the Ram Mandir inauguration was important, but I think this happened before the inauguration, where they announced something about the inauguration, and we jumped on that while the migrant worker crisis was happening. So I think we also need to be smart about how much we fall into the traps that the right sets for us.
You know what, you said a very interesting thing right
distraction,
now. Yeah, you said a very interesting thing right now, that the Ram inauguration, Mandir inauguration is also important. A lot of times, we get branded as someone who are completely against, anything that's Hindu. Like we're completely against Hinduism as a whole. So I'm glad to know that you
I think she meant like Ram Mandir issue was important to be focused on, not like supported.
No, I'm not pro the Ram Mandir at all. I'm saying that it was an issue that we needed to focus on because it's built on the blood of.
Okay, that way. I'm sorry.
There's reasons for which the focus should be clearer. Like the reason for which you're focusing on the topic. It shouldn't be just like you were against the fact that it was a celebratory smoke screen for what was actually going on. But instead it should
and the
be
whole fact that this was a state-sponsored temple, like, it's not the job of the government to build temples. Like the government was invested in this whole thing, and they expedited the whole process to build this temple, which is clearly based on it has a violent history, and it was kind of very against the whole the principles of a country for a government to do that. And I think that was very troubling.
Right.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that it was, again, very clear where the government stood on this. It's what they promised during the elections as well. So, yeah, I think that we need to be more strategic about how much space we give to the right-wing traps. For example, all of the conversation about Sushant Singh.
Right.
So I think all of the conversation about that is very, we don't need to say that much information about a person who died by suicide. We need to obviously get to the bottom of it, but it shouldn't take up our primetime news every day. And that's what they're just trying to, use it to distract us and to keep distracting us, which is something that we should try and be.
This one is brilliant.
So yeah, this was, I used the meme, made it about Modi.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're still in denial. They're still denying that the country has a serious problem with COVID. They're still saying, oh, we managed it so well. We stopped it before it started, which is not at all true. We are fourth on the list of the number of fatalities. Anyway, so yeah, that's my presentation.
This was amazing, Rachita. Thank you so much for sharing. And I don't know, I just could not help feeling on these feelings because I've been following your work for so long, and you've always been so quick and vocal, and your wit is so all on point about these issues. And I don't know, for a lot of us, who struggle with sometimes from articulating what's on our minds, and I don't know, all these things bother me, but whenever, it's a meme, where you have all these things in your head, but when you say some, very little comes out. And that being said, but you do a very good job at channeling it into a very consumable and understandable medium, and it's so amazing. But Rachita, one question I want to ask you, a thing which often plagues people who are not from the right, is this: what about you? Yeah, but why didn't you say anything when that happened? Or why there are so many other problems that are happening? And does it, and it can get so exhausting, right? That yeah, like, when you're talking about EIA, people are like, yeah, but you didn't say anything about that incident. So how do you deal with that? Like that, this exhaustion with the amount of issues to be talked about, right? Like, just when you're talking about something else, Ram Mandir is happening, you will, oh shit, I need to focus on this also. Then another something they'll drop on you, and that is how they've been derailing this movement from the start. So how do you, as an artist, deal with it? And yeah, as a person who is.
Yeah. So when it comes to, I think I understood your question. I should mute when you ask me a question because I think I wasn't able to hear it, the whole thing completely. But yeah, so in terms of picking the issues that I think I need to draw comics on. So I'm not getting paid by anyone right now. I have Patreons who support my work, and there is no obligation for me to make any comics. So I usually try and make as many comics as I can think, as I have ideas for. So if I have an idea for a comic, because it's so easy for me to go from idea to actually creating the comic, since it's a stick figure and it's very little visual work. Most of the time I spend in writing my dialogue. That's the most time intensive thing. So if I get an idea, I will most likely make a comic out of it. So I don't stop myself or stop myself from making certain comics or focus on certain things to make comics about. I try and make them about as many things as I can. And usually the way that I get ideas is when I'm reading the news. I scroll through Twitter and see what's happening, what people are talking about, and inevitably there will be an idea that I have. In terms of when people come at me about whataboutery, I think whataboutery is a propaganda tool that is used to A, distract you from what you're talking about, and B, try and publicly discredit you for not having spoken about a thing that you were probably not even born when it happened. So
exactly,
it's the smartest thing to do with whataboutery is to just ignore it. And I initially used to think that I shouldn't delete comments and things like that, but as soon as someone gives me one gali, I'm like, this is not worth it. It's not worth having this person because I have built my platform with hard work, and I don't owe them a platform to insult me on.
correct.
So now it's not censorship. It's just getting a person to screw off if they're going to not be respectful, especially towards the person they're commenting, the comic they're commenting under. So with whataboutery, usually, it's very obvious that they're trying to derail, especially if you click on a person's profile and go through the profile, it, probably has like a Hindu flag or a
and with zero posts, zero followers.
Proud Indian, proud Hindu.
Yeah.
You should see my block list.
Yeah.
There's all those Shri.
Like blocking people, and it's like they'll either have Modi's face on the DP or India's or the Hindu flag or Akhand Bharat.
That's a red flag or an orange flag.
Yeah, exactly. That's the best part. It has a.
I'm just surprised how much time they have coming up with fake accounts, one after the other, one after the other.
It's an industry. It's an industry.
It's an IT cell. It's an IT cell, yeah. I mean, but what I do, I just tell them, where were you when Earth was being bombarded with so many meteorites?
Yes.
I go all the way back.
What about the dinosaurs? What about the dinosaurs?
Rachita, we already have some amazing questions.
Yeah, sure.
Yes. So I'm just gonna pick one from Tanaz, and she says that.
Shall we bring her on the screen?
Yes,
oh yes, absolutely. I think she should ask.
Screen, yes.
She has so many questions.
So many of her. Just get her in.
Host, can you promote her as a panelist?
Yeah, I promoted her already.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Loud and clear.
Okay. I'm not showing my face because I'm blushing a lot in front of Rachita. I have the massivest crush on her and it is very embarrassing.
Go ahead, Tanas.
All right. So the questions that I have, first of all, you're a woman with opinions and the bastardity of the act. How do you even deal with that much of act? Like so much of hate going on. How do you deal with it? How many like kitna delete karoge didi? Like how do you deal with so much of it?
So in terms of trolling, I usually try and ignore it. It's difficult to ignore it. It's difficult to delete it and to like move on, obviously. But what the trolls want more than anything is for you to start engaging with them. As soon as you like say something in return, like as soon as you respond, they're just going to latch onto that opportunity and use it to continue distracting you and wasting your time. So I just ignore my trolls most of the time. And if they come in my DMs, it's very easy for me to just delete the comment. It's they put so much effort into trying and into harassing me in my DMs. I can just like select all and delete. Yeah, it's not very difficult. But in terms of like, sorry, that's I live next to a train station, so that's the sound of a train. In terms of emotional, like it does get to you. It does have an effect on you when you keep reading, vile comments about you, about your family, about the way you look or whatever else. There are so many ways subconsciously that it affects you. So if you're someone who's getting trolled, I would recommend therapy. Therapy is great. Mental health is real. I would say go and talk to a counselor if you can, or have a close family or a family member or friend who you can talk to about it. Because pretending like it doesn't affect you is foolish. I think you need to, make peace with the fact that it will affect you, even though it might not take any physical manifestation. It will affect you deep down inside somewhere. So don't bottle it up and keep talking about it. So that's how I deal with it.
And like, how did you build up the following you have? You have such a massive following, and like for the first, like I am one of the people. Like you should probably put a restraining order on me at this point, because I can tell you when we're doing a presentation, I was able to say, okay, so this is the comic from this per time, this is the comic from this situation. Yeah, you should probably get a restraining order at this time. How did you build up this kind of a following, ma'am?
It's been like consistent work, just non-stop making comics. Even when I would get like 3 shares on a comic at some point, and I'd have to like make my peace with the fact that that's all that I'm going to get right now, because it takes time. It's taken me 6 years to get at this point, and a lot of comics. I think I've made about more than 300-400 comics. So it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of sticking to it. And it's difficult when you don't have a constant stream of income, or if you don't have the validation that you need. But yeah, I ended up sticking to it just because I liked it as a way to vent my anger, or talk about my opinions. So yeah, I guess it was just easy for me to keep going.
And like, how did you have so much of content? Like, who are some of the other creators that you would like to endorse? Like, if I like Sanitary Panels, what else would I also like? Some other woke, funny creators, that make statements for them.
So I like Kritika Susarla. She is also on Instagram. Love her work. She's a great person as well. We have Bakery Prasad. Only during the NRCCA time is when I started following him. Amazing work again. There is Dalit Desk, which again I've only recently discovered, but I'm very happy to have. There are my all-time favorites like Green Humor. Love Rohan, love his work. We have Holy Cow Mix. We have Mean Curry. There are so many content. Like if you go through all of the accounts that I follow, just follow all of the comic accounts. You won't regret it. There are some fantastic creators.
And also, like, this is a little bit on the serious panel. What I would about to ask is that sometimes, have you felt that you have a bit of a Hindu privilege when you're opposing this certain government?
Absolutely. And I say that the only reason that I've been able to continue making my comics is because of the privilege that I have as a Savarna Hindu woman. I would have been silenced potentially a long time ago if I did not have the kind of privilege that I have in terms of my caste and my religion. I was born Hindu. I'm not a practicing Hindu. But yeah, absolutely. I hope to use my privilege, and that's what I try to do with my comic. But yeah, I'm going to completely 100% acknowledge the fact that I have that.
Also, my last question is like, how do you like your eggs in the morning?
How do I like my eggs in the morning? Sunny side up, a little runny.
Alright.
Funny.
Also, did you know that us, the Gen Z followers of your page, we like completely flooded Modi's comment section with fairy comments from TikTok?
Oh my God, I saw that and I loved it. I could not stop laughing. It was amazing to see. I had so much like love and faith in the, in Gen Z when I saw that. Thank you. Please keep at it.
I love you so much.
All right.
All
Shall we
right.
get
Yeah.
Rituparna Day on the panel now?
Yes.
Rituparna also has
Yes.
some questions. Thank you, Tanas. Thank you for that really amazing, adorable questions. So we have a question from Rituparna Day. So she will be asking you some
I
questions.
can't seem to make Rituparna.
No, I'm doing it. I got it. Rituparna, are you here?
Hi.
Hi.
Am I audible?
Yes.
So apparently I was living under a rock because it was only during Annie Hazarika's session with Dapun that I came to know about sanitary pads. So I am a fangirl. I'm just starting off, but then yeah, I already am a fangirl. So my first question to you is, um, has it ever happened that you've made a comic strip and then changed your mind or opinion about it later on? Because oftentimes we know that things are not so black and white. They delve more around the gray areas. So because once I made this comic strip, actually a single panel thing for the Kerala incident, right? That elephant incident regarding the pineapple and the firecrackers thing, and then later on I came to know that the issue was slightly different. So does it ever happen to you that your opinion changes after a few days or a weeks as the truth is revealed later on?
Yeah, so I don't think that your opinion changed over there. I think the reality changed over there. So that it happens very often, when you're responding very quickly to a current of something that's happening in the news. There are times when the media or whoever you have your information from, it turns out being incorrect or not properly reported. So there have been times when I've taken my comics down and I said, okay, no, this new information has come out, and this it's my comic is no longer relevant because the reality has changed. If the reality was the same as when I made my comic, I would still stick by my comic. But because it was misreported and I did not have an understanding of what actually happened, I'm going to take my comic down. So one of these examples was about the number of cases of, I think, police brutality in UP about around the NRC CAA protests. And I had misreported in one of my comics, I had written a number and that was incorrect. So I took down the comic and I changed the number and I put it back up, and I put a short statement on Instagram saying this is why I deleted the comic and I've changed it. So I think that makes sense. I think if you want to stay credible in this world, you have to admit to the fact that you make mistakes and change it and put it back up if it's still relevant.
Absolutely. And there's another question. So how often has your work been removed from the social media platform, and does that affect you anymore, or like you're okay with it now?
My work hasn't been, actually, I don't know, because if I've made a comic and if it got removed like after a really long time, then maybe I don't know, but it hasn't been removed very often. I think once a comic got taken off of Twitter because it got mass reported, it was using the Hindu swastika symbol with the with a face on top, and it was about the Delhi riots and the violence that was happening. So I think they took that down, and then they took down the Facebook comic. But I don't think my comic gets taken down very often, or at least not that I'm aware of. And yeah, I mean, when it got taken down that one time, I made a huge ruckus about it. So I'm gonna keep doing that if it gets taken down.
Yeah.
Rachita, I have
Thank you so much.
Rachita, I have like one question that a lot of people do ask the people who oppose the government, like do you ever find anything like when the other side happens, other side of the coin happens, why are you always absent? That is one thing that is always asked. So what's your response to that?
So look, when there's often this perception that I will not speak on issues that affect Muslim people or that criticize Muslim people, and I do that because I'm a Hindu woman and I have the right to criticize my own religion. I have the right to criticize my own upbringing. I have the right to criticize my own caste, but I cannot, in good faith, criticize another religion, another like a lower caste, because I think that would be punching down versus punching up. So punching up means or punching sideways. It means that when someone has the same amount of privilege or more privilege than you have, then you can criticize them. But if you are punching down, that means you're criticizing someone who has less amount of privilege than you. And I don't ever punch down with my comics. So even if there is, for example, President Kovind, I will not comment on stuff that he says because I can comment on stuff that he says, and I have a little bit, but I don't badger on about it because he has, even though he's on the right and stuff, he does have a caste, there is a caste angle that I am not comfortable with talking about because again, I have to reevaluate my privilege all over every time to check that I'm not hurting anyone or not punching down. I hope that makes sense. I basically try not to punch down.
Can I ask in relation to that? Is that in relation to specifically President Kovind, right? So, but don't you think
actually, the President Kovind one was a bad example because there is still a lot of power and privilege differential.
Right.
But yeah, go for it.
So, like in situations like that, he now has a position of privilege, right? He now has a position and power to make certain changes. So do you think when we take a stance like this, say I will not punch down against it, so then that's when the government, I have a feeling the government knows us very well. That's why they take these token representations. They take this token Dalit person and they take it, okay, our vice president is Muslim, so they always get these token representations and then say, oh, these leftists will not criticize when he does it or when she's. So what do you have to say about that? When they keep on pulling these so-called master strokes, how can we still go on criticizing that despite and not punch down at the same time?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the President Kovind example was a bad one. I'm going to take that one back and talk about, for example, about Muslim people. And if,
even say Kamala Harris right now, Kamala Harris being put in that position, brown female thing, it has a very strategic angle to it.
Yeah, so I think that, man, she's been so bad with black people. She's basically a cop where
right.
The US is going to have a cop. So I think that there are valid criticisms that you can make about a person and about their position and stuff. But when it comes to, the way that, for example, the Bangalore riot stuff played out, that felt to me I'm an atheist. I do not believe in religion. I do not support any religion.
Correct.
But I don't think that I am the best person to talk about what happens when a community's sensitivities are hurt. I don't think violence is ever the answer, but I'm not going to make a comic about it because I feel like I have the right to make a comic about Hindu people and then potentially about, for example, white people. Mm-hmm. But I don't feel comfortable about making a comic about another religion that I don't understand and that is a minority and that is being regularly harassed, that has the system rigged against it, that continues to face lynching. So I think there are a lot of other artists out there that are Muslim that can speak about this. I don't think that I am one. I wouldn't feel confident in my own comic, and especially I would want to show it to a whole group of Muslim people and ask them, is this fine? Because I do not want to hurt people who are not responsible for the violence, and I might end up doing that with my comic. I'm pretty sure Muslim people do not want that violence. So, it's
absolutely
touching down.
Yeah. And we do not have the lived experience also. Like, no matter how much we might say,
And they are oppressed every single day. They are treated differently. They are othered. So yeah, I don't feel comfortable talking about it without having that, like you said, lived experience.
Rituparna, do you have any more questions, or should we move on to the next question? I think we're also running out of time, so we need to wrap this up real quick.
I can't believe it got over so soon.
I think we need a longer session. We need a longer session.
Yes.
Definitely.
Rachita, next session will be a longer one.
Rituparna, do you have a question?
Yeah. And I'm done. I have a lot of questions, but then I think we can move on.
Okay, you can always DM Rachita and Shao in her
Yeah.
DM. Take over the trolls over there and All right. I think next we have Annie with a question. Do we have Annie? There are two Annies. I don't know which Annie is this. So whichever Annie you are.
Annie Hazarika.
There are two Annies.
The real Annie, please stand up. Please stand up.
Okay, I'm promoting it. If it's not the real Annie, then we'll try it.
Oh, whoa.
At this point, anything is fine. Sorry.
Okay, Annie, you're here with us. If you're the real Annie, please stand up. Use your hands.
Sorry, it's not me. I think
is that her?
Oh, it's the other Annie. Sorry.
Oh, it's the other Annie. Okay, yeah, sorry about that. All right. I'm so sorry about this, Rachita. This has never happened before.
No, not at all.
Okay, do we have Annie here on the list right now? Yeah.
Hi, this is the real Annie.
Oh my God. Please use your full names next time.
Annie Hazarika, sure. So yeah, first of all, Rachita Di, I'm such a big fan. We were talking about you a few days ago, and I don't know where my camera is, so I don't know where to look. So I'll just
it's fine. It's fine. Yeah.
So hi, first of all, again, big fan, and I think Rituparna already mentioned that we were talking about you in one of the sessions. So actually Dapandai and I were having this conversation, about how sometimes some people would come and approach us and ask us questions like, I don't know how to make art. I've been practicing, but I'm not a illustrator. I can't draw like a lot of other people. And what we both kind of pointed out was exactly your example, because you're not going for like full on illustrative art styles or anything. You literally draw like line drawings of these such great stories. And I think that's a great way of actually putting your message out there, right? So can we talk about what do you think? How important is it? Is art really important about how it looks, or is it more important about what story you're putting out there,
I think art itself, if you have a fancy, if you draw, your style of drawing is also putting out a message. It's also putting out a story. So I think that with Sanitary Panels, even though I've learned how to draw in the past 6 years, I like the style and I wanted to stay the same because because of everything else being so simplistic visually, I can have all of my audience just focus on the message. So it's easy to not be distracted visually with colors and with intricate drawings, which I don't think that intricate drawings is necessarily a bad thing. I just think that it's easier. What I'm going for is a very simplistic, putting out a few lines out there. So I think my art style lends itself well to what I'm trying to say. So I think it's possible for an art style to, sorry, 1 second. I think, sorry, that was my mom on the door. So I think that it's different for whoever, for everyone. You know, like with Rohan, he needs to have an intricate drawing style because he is showing animals, he is showing birds, and he needs to know how to draw in order to do that. But I think I can still talk about environmentalism with my comic in a different way. So it depends on what you're trying to say and how you're trying to say it. I don't think you necessarily need to know how to draw to put out a visual message. So I think everyone should try making comics.
Yeah, exactly. And I think after a while it becomes a style. You know, the way you draw, we just resonated with your style. It's like Rachita's style. Yeah.
Like I think it's the communication. See, her form is like it's a visual communication, and it's very relatable. So
Right.
it doesn't matter what the medium is, how you like communicate. The more simple the communication is, the more far-reaching effects it will have. So I believe that Rachita is like spot on with her communication, with her stick figures and a line drawing. It's just telling the story perfectly as it is, and that's the beauty about it.
That's very kind, but I also like what you said about it's relatable, because I think that people are not intimidated by my art in that way, because it's so simple. You're like, oh, even I could make that. So people don't feel intimidated when they're seeing my comic, which I think lends to the fact that it has a bigger audience.
Are you ever going to sue someone who makes stick figures now?
I mean,
it's your style. Somebody's copying your style.
I think Rachita is like one of those copyleft people. Like her work is so easily accessible. Like people can use the process. People can I think you've voluntarily made that open source. I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, I make comics where I've told people feel free to just I've removed all of the dialogue and I've just put a template and I've been like, go and make your own comics and memes out of it.
Lovely.
So yeah, I think that there should be no gatekeeping with this kind of stuff. Obviously, don't copy my words and because writing is very difficult. Writing a comic is difficult, and that's what I focus most of my.
So there you draw the line.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to copy my comic verbatim, then I'm going to have a problem. But if it's your own idea and you're using a simplistic black and white drawing style, I'm not going to hold it against you, because I did not invent stick figures and I did not invent black and white art. So go for it.
Right.
Perfect,
all right.
perfect.
I think slowly we can end this. I think we can do a marathon session. We can just bring in the next panel.
I know.
I don't want this session to end, but this has been amazing. Rachita, I just wanted to ask one final question. Is what keeps you motivated? Because every day when I open the news, and news is where you get the source of information from, and it always makes you feel a little nihilistic. Like nothing matters. All these things that I'm doing. Like the right is getting more and more powerful. Like in the brief period between campaign and everything, but when that started fizzling out, now it just feels like you're just there. Now with the COVID situation, it just helped them in such a big way. Like there are no protests. It's virtually a police state right now. They have forced people to download this app which they can surveil on people. So what motivates you to go on when you see the the other side just grow and grow and grow?
Yeah, I get existential every now and then. What is the point of anything? Or why are my stick figures even online? What is? So I feel that a lot, and I think the best way to keep going is to not burn out and to keep taking breaks. And to also, I think one of the things that really keeps me going is when people message me directly and say that I've helped them in some way. That's something that also makes me feel good. And if I see numbers, for example, with the Environment Impact Assessment Report, there were 2 million people who wrote to the Environment Ministry, right? And that kind of stuff gives me hope. I think the youth is giving me hope right now a lot. And there are people, I think just the worst side is more vocal. The right is more vocal. They have all of the media. They have everything in their control. But there are people who are doing amazing stuff out there. And I think there is a lot to hope for, a lot to look forward to, and a lot that we can hope for. But yeah, take breaks. don't look at the news if it's affecting you a lot more than it generally does. Sleep. I sleep a lot. Talk to a counselor.
I believe you have another page also. You have a separate page where you post.
Yeah, it's called NGL Comics. It's where I actually try drawing. I do that also sometimes when I don't feel like doing sanitary panels. I make portraits of my friends. So it's nice to spend 15-20 minutes making a portrait of my friend, because all I'm thinking about is how much my friend will like the portrait. So taking time off and not always drawing sanitary panels helps me. So I think it's good to take breaks.
Wow, thank you so much, Rachita.
Wow,
this has been so special.
Yes, this has been really, really, really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, like, I really hate to see you go, but I guess you probably have your supper and dinner and other things to do in life. I mean, like, better than Gap.
I'm having so much fun. It's like a conversation. All we need is a couple of beers now. Done.
Yeah.
Will this do?
I already got my hearts here.
Oh boy, Santa's all prepared. All right.
Thank you so much, Rachita.
All right, thank you so much.
So wonderful.
Yeah, please come to Guwahati.
Yes.
Sanaz is like, please come to Guwahati.
We'll love to host you here.
Get rid of COVID, I'll do anything.
COVID आपको देख के डर के भाग जाएगा.
Too sanitary for us.
भाग जाओ कॉमिक बना लेगी हमारे ऊपर.
Okay then.
All right then.
Thank you, Rachita.
Thank you so much.
Thanks all.
Yeah.
Okay. What are your projects?